Alright, we're going to be looking at the Control tab today. It covers the control blocks. So our first one is when flag is clicked. So what that means is to get the ball rolling or to start your program, you would need to click this flag right here. Pretty self-explanatory. The next one is when space key is pressed. All that means is to get the program running, you would like press the space bar, or if you click the down arrow, you can choose from different keys like numbers or your arrow keys or letters on your keyboard. The next one is when I am clicked. So what that means is, let's go to the motion tab. If we put move 10 steps, so what this says is when I am clicked, move 10 steps. So you actually have to click your sprite. So right here, so if I'm clicking right here and I'm clicking run and I'm hitting the spacebar, nothing happens, but I actually have to click the sprite to make it run. Alright, so let's go back to our control tab. Our next one is when I receive. So if we click on the down arrow right here, it says any message and new. If we click on new, we can type in like Bob for a message name and then hit OK. So it says when I receive Bob, I'm going to do something, and Bob, whatever Bob is or whatever you chose to name it, you can set up yourself in a different area. Another thing you can do that's very useful at Snap, excuse me, is if you right click the block and do help, this will pop up. So it'll give you examples. So it says when I receive, or the when I receive block, it says whenever the message jump is broadcast, do all this. And so you need to use it in conjunction with the broadcast block, which is right below. So let's do this. So our next one, as we can see, is broadcast. And like I said, we can right click and choose help. It'll give us another example. So it says broadcast sends a message to all the sprites in the background, and this is useful if you want to tell other sprites when to do something. What do you want them to do when they receive the message? So if we click on broadcast Bob, I'm going to go back to the help real quick. It says when I receive jump. Alright, so let's see if we can get this working. So when I receive Bob, let's say move 10 steps. If we go control, let's say when flag is clicked, broadcast Bob. So if we hit the flag now, so this looks really simple. What this is saying is when this flag is clicked, tell everything to move 10 steps, or all your sprites. So I think this will work if I create a new sprite. And if we can choose the when I receive control block. We click down on the arrow, we see we have Bob. And we can tell it turn 15 degrees. So we have a when I receive block in the new sprite we created, and we have a receive block in the old sprite we created. So it says when clicked broadcast Bob, so that says send out Bob to everybody, and everybody that has Bob will check and see like, okay, well, if I receive Bob, I need to move 10 steps. And this sprite says if I receive Bob, I need to turn 15 steps. So if we run our program by clicking the bar up here, or the flag, then this sprite should move 10 steps because Bob was broadcasted and it received it, and this sprite should rotate 15 degrees because Bob was broadcasted and it should receive it. So let's click the flag and see what happens. So we can see both of them moving at the same time. Alright, let's go back to our control block. or tab, excuse me. So we have the broadcast something and wait. So this is very similar to broadcast. I'm going to go to help, except for it says send the message jump and wait until all the jumps are done. So what that means is if I have a, let's say, something time based, like let's pretend when I receive Bob, let's pretend it would say you know, jump around for 10 seconds or something like that. And then what this block says, if we put it here, that would mean broadcast Bob and then wait to do if you have any other code below this, it says broadcast Bob and wait until Bob, the stuff that uses Bob, gets finished before you do the rest of your code. So it all just, every single bit of it doesn't just happen at once. Alright, so we have a message right here. If we click the little box, we can see our message is Bob right now because that's what was broadcasted. Next we have warp. So if we click help on here, it says run fast, don't draw intermediate steps. So I think such confidence. I think how this works is, let's pretend you have a program that takes a little while to run, like the example here, it draws a square. So if your program did that, it might take a little bit to just draw the square. If you have the warp block though, I think it'll pretty much go from from A to Z, it'll run it all the way to the end, so you won't have to wait. It's like warp, like Star Trek, like warp speed. Alright, so our next block is the wait 1 second block, and that's exactly what it sounds like. If you have so let's put this right here. So when I receive Bob, move 10 steps, let's say wait 5 seconds, and now let's go to our motion tab and choose turn, let's put 45 degrees so it's more noticeable. So what this says now is when it receives Bob, it's going to move 10 steps, it's going to wait for 5 seconds, and it's going to turn 45 degrees. So let's run a program and let's keep an eye on this guy right here, the gray turtle. So let's hit run. So he moved, we're waiting, 5 seconds, and then he rotated. Alright, so let's go back to our control block, or tab. Alright, our next one is wait until. We hit help on that. So what this does is, if you have a sensing block, so in this example it says wait until touching clown, so I'm assuming they have a clown in the program. So what it does, it says wait until something happens. So if we go to our sensing tab here, so excuse me, we have a mouse down. So what we can do with this is, let's use our when clicked. So it says the mouse is clicked, wait until the mouse is down, and then if that happens, we want to run our code. So press a flag, and I'm not clicking the mouse, but let me click my mouse, and now the code activated because I clicked. But this doesn't have to be a mouse down, this can be whatever you specify it as. Let's go back to our control tab. Alright, we have a forever. So forever is a long time, so let's go to help and see the example. So it's exactly what you think it is. So if we put when clicked forever, let's move 10 steps. So let's see what happens when we click the flag. just moved 10 steps forever. And since it's forever, and we don't have any way to exit out, this highlight right here around the code block means it's still running. It is still going. So we want to click the red little stop sign up here, and that'll make our program stop running. And if we remember, if our sprite goes off the out of the area, right click your sprite and click show, left click show, and it'll bring it back. Alright, so our next one is repeat 10. And so you can plug in anything in there. So I'll say move 10 steps. So it says repeat 10 steps 10 times. So it should be 100 steps. That might be too far, but let's give it a run and see what happens. Oh, that was 100 steps. There's another 100. Alright, our next one is repeat until. And this is kind of like the wait until, except for instead of waiting, it'll just keep doing. So like the mouse is down. So repeat until mouse is down. Let's do turn 45 degrees. So what this code says is when our flag is clicked, our sprite is going to rotate for 45 degrees endlessly until I click the mouse. So let's click the flag and see what happens. So I clicked it, it is rotating, it keeps on going, and I have not clicked my mouse, but as soon as I click my mouse, it stopped. And like I said, I like to wait until. This doesn't have to be mouse down, it can be whatever, but that's just what I use. Alright, our next block is an if statement, which is it's pretty powerful. I'm going to clear some of these blocks out of the way. Once again, how you do that is you left click and drag over here, or you can right click and hit delete. But I find the dragging to be a lot quicker. Alright, so we have an if statement. So what that says is, let's see what example they give. So if we right click that block, choose help. So their example is if score is greater than 10, that is true, then say you win. So you can kind of see how that works. So what we're going to do is let's go back to our sensing tab, and it's easy, so I'm going to use it. Let's say key space is pressed. So let's say if our space bar is pressed, then we're going to move 10 steps. So I'm hitting the space bar right now and nothing's happening because the start of our code is when the flag is clicked. So if I click the flag, now if I hit the space key, nothing will happen. Well, how come? Let's try this instead. Let's do the mouse down. Mouse down, move 10 steps. That seems not to be working. Hold on. Alright, so let's use this example instead. So let's go to our operator tab. And it's green, so we see we have a equals. So let's put if 5 equals 4, move 10 steps. And since 5 does not equal 4, and we hit the run button, nothing happens. But if we change that 4 to a 5, so if 5 equals 5, which it does, move 10 steps. So let's hit the run button. You'll see our sprite moves. So let's go back to the control tab. Alright, we have an if else. Now this is like an if statement, except for it also takes into account what happens if 5 did not equal 5, for instance. So let's change our 5 equals 5 back to 5 equals 4. And let's plug that in there. Now let's put the move 10 steps here. Let's get rid of this. And let's go back to our motion tab up here. Let's choose the turn 15 degrees clockwise. Plug that into our else. Alright, so if we run the program, you see that it rotates. Because what it's saying is, when the flag is clicked, if 5 equals 4, move 10 steps. But since 5 does not equal 4, so it says, otherwise, if 5 does not equal 4, do this instead. Alright, let's go back to our control tab. Alright, so our next block is report. If we right click and go to help on that, it says report a value from a custom block to its caller. So this is dealing with custom blocks. So report report all the way down to call this with continuing is custom blocks, and we will go into that later. As an intro to Snap, you probably won't be creating too many custom blocks, if any at all. So we're going to skip that for right now. The next one is when I start as a clone. And same thing, clones aren't really applicable to what we're going to be doing right now, so I will not worry about those too much. So, but up until that point, everything this is pretty important. So, yeah, that is the control tab.